Byzantium, or the Eastern Roman Empire, was a great state with its capital in Constantinople that existed for more than 1,000 years from the 4th to the 15th century. It had an immense impact on the development of Christian civilization. All the apostolic churches mentioned in St. Paul's epistles and in the Apocalypse were once within the territory of Byzantium. The Christians who lived in the empire embraced the faith of these apostolic churches and kept it with great care for centuries. They began to call the true Christian faith Orthodox, i.e., rightly glorifying God. Unfortunately, Rome, an ancient Christian center, gradually distanced itself from the other apostolic sees, and its final separation took place in the 11th century. Yet even after that, Byzantium enjoyed a certain influence over the West. Pope Pius II wrote in the 15th century that Byzantium was the centerpiece of wisdom, and no Roman could be considered educated without studying in Constantinople for some time. Barbados is an island state in the Caribbean. Once a British colony, it is now an independent and rapidly developing country. The first British settlers, together with the ancestors of the present-day black population, appeared there only in the 17th century, nearly 2 centuries after the fall of the Byzantine Empire. So what could connect Byzantium and Barbados? The last ruling dynasty of Byzantium was the family of Palaeologus. The Byzantine Empire was lost under attack of the Turkish Muslims in 1453. On May 29th, during the enemy's attack on Constantinople, the last emperor, Constantine IX, defended his people with weapon in hand and died in battle. In 1596, his brother's great-grandson, Theodore Palaeologus, moved from the Isle of Chios to England. There he married Mary Bells and had 3 sons, Ferdinand, John, and Theodore. They lived in Plymouth. The civil war that emerged in the 1640s weighed heavily on the Palaeologus family. Theodore Palaeologus Jr. took the side of Parliament and was killed in 1644. As for Ferdinand and John, they supported King Charles I. They both fought in the Battle of Naseby in 1645, in which the king's army was defeated and Charles fled the country. John Palaeologus died in the battle, while Ferdinand decided to move to remote Barbados, where his wife's relatives owned an estate. We are here at a place called Ashford Plantation. In the 17th century, it was the property of Ferdinand Palaeologus, who spent nearly 20 years of his life here. Little has changed since that time. The same sugarcane fields and landscapes surrounded the life of one of the last heirs to the Byzantine throne. Ferdinand spent over 20 years on Barbados. His son Theodosius was born there. In his last will, Ferdinand ordered to share his estate equally between his wife and his son. one of the last descendants of the Byzantine imperial house, took an active part in the life of the local community and left behind a good memory.
Здесь находится могила Фердинанда Палеологуса.
Here is the grave of Ferdinand Palaeologus, great-grandson of the brother of the last Byzantine emperor. He was buried according to Orthodox tradition. When his crypt was opened in the 19th century after an earthquake, it was found that, unlike all the others, he was buried with his head to the west. Orthodox Christians believe that at his second coming the Lord Jesus Christ will come from the east, therefore they bury their dead with their heads to the west, that at the time of the general resurrection, when the dead rise from their graves, they will directly face Jesus Christ. Ferdinand Palaeologus died with this faith. After Ferdinand's death, his son Theodosius returned to England, married, had a son and a daughter, and died in 1693. When Greece freed itself from the Turkish yoke in the first half of the 19th century, the newly established Greek government sent a mission to Britain to search for the heirs of the Palaeologus dynasty, but none could be found. The last representative of the royal family to leave a more or less noticeable trace in history was Ferdinand Palaeologus, becoming a link between Orthodox Byzantium and Barbados.